This is PJNET.TV, and this is my perspective and comments. In this video segment of My Perspective and Comments, we cover politics, society here and abroad, and the events of the day that are shaping our nation. PJNET.TV, my perspective and comment, coming to you with a worldview, one nation under God. Hello and welcome to my perspective and comments. And folks, I'd like to start out again with a COVID update. The shots are still going on. The intimidation is ratcheting up to even a higher level when you look around at some of the governments and how they're pushing residents now that they had better get the jab. And that's what we're seeing playing out right now, that communities, if you look at California right now, they're talking about mandating if you want to go to school, you've got to get the jab. And we're seeing Newsom fresh off of almost getting booted from office. He's going down this tyranny road again, back on track against those Californians. But it's not just California. We're also seeing it happening on the other side, on the other coast here in New York. But I'd like to start out right now with a report here, COVID related, and again, what we've seen is early on, when the vaccines came out, you saw the government just kind of nudging people, not really forcefully, just recommending. It's important for you to care for Granny, that you need to get the jab so that you're not going to imperil and put them in medical danger because you haven't gotten a jab. And we saw that playing out where they were handing out, lottery tickets, or you can go to a coffee shop and get a free coffee or a Danish if you got the jab. They're handing out booze. If you got the jab, you could get some booze. All these things, incentives to encourage people to go and get the jab. But when the numbers didn't really add up and didn't come to the percentage that the government wanted, then they took a different tactic. Now it's, you better get the jab or you're going to lose your job. And we're seeing that play out with these mandates being pushed. We see Biden doing a lot of talking, but there's nothing in a federal law mandating getting a jab. All it is a recommendation from the White House. But it's been poised as something written in stone that's got to be followed. But what we see here now is that the government wants to use businesses, corporations, to do their dirty work and make people get this jab. That's why we're seeing places like hospitals and airlines and other companies saying, if you want to work here, you've got to get the jab. And what people need to do is stand up and say, no, this is an experimental drug, and I'm not putting myself in danger potentially with a severe illness. And there is, right now, we're seeing judges step up and saying, wait a minute, there's religious exemptions, and they are striking. Especially we're seeing in New York right now, Kathy Hochul, the newly put in governor because of the disgraced Andy Cuomo and his assaults on women in New York. She has now, though, she's been under Andy Cuomo's tutelage, and she's following right along with his tyrannical edicts. You're going to do it or you're going to lose your job. And that's what we're seeing in New York right now, where she's threatening health workers to, if they don't get the jab within a certain time, then they will lose their jobs. But what has taken place is that U.S. District Judge David Hurd of Utica, New York, granted a preliminary injunction temporarily barring New York State and employers from enforcing COVID-19 vaccine, these mandates against the medical workers. And Hochul, this judge came out and she's defiant, angry. You can't, basically pushing back against the judge and saying, defiant, I'm going to fight this and I'm going to push this on the New York medical staff. So she wants to fight this judge's ruling. So that's the attitude that we're getting from many of these governors. If a judge comes in and says, no, there's religious exemption and you're not going to do anything until this goes through the court, they keep their job and we don't do anything. But that can't stand, and we see this evidenced in New York under the so-called governor in interim, Kathy Hochul in New York. So we see that playing out, the tug of war that's going on. You better get the jab or you're going to lose your job. We also see, as I had mentioned, the government, the Biden administration, using businesses to do their dirty work in mandating. Well, now we see these airlines. And I'm hopeful and glad to see that many of these unions, pilots unions, are saying, no, we're not good. No, you're not forcing our pilots. And now supposedly there was no sick out or anything, no sick out, but a lot of pilots didn't show up there for Southwest, and there were a lot of angry people that were stranded, not being able to move in the airlines. And folks, that's what needs to happen in every line of business. And yes, it may inconvenience, it may cause difficulties, but until this government realizes this tyranny and blatant disregard of the Constitution and our freedoms, our God-given freedoms, it's time that we say no. We'll shut this country right down if that's what it takes, because this can't stand. And forcing kids, potentially kids under 5, to get this experiment. No, and no more. Now we're seeing, as I mentioned, using businesses. Let's take a look again here in the state of Ohio. An Ohio man says that he was informed that just 5 days before he was to be scheduled for a kidney transplant, that the operation was called off because the donor, not the man that was needed to receive this kidney, but the donor did not get a jab. So the hospital there said, no. Mike, the individual that was looking to get, that needed this kidney transplant, his name is Mike Ganim, and he was fully vaccinated for the COVID-19, but his donor was not. Now, you've heard, I've mentioned here before about the Hippocratic oath that doctors take, that doctors do no harm. Well, is that what this is? that they're not doing any harm. This man is now in danger because Biden is telling companies and hospitals that they need to put pressure on people and on physicians. And now we're seeing this dangerous mandate is now affecting people. Now, it's not just in Ohio, but I've heard Colorado, a hospital there in Colorado is doing the same thing, where they're refusing to operate on people if they haven't got the jab when they come to the hospital. This is evil. This is evil, and definitely demonic influence that's taking place here, that's wrapped around this whole situation of mandates and forcing people and going after our kids to take these jabs. But that's what's been taking place. And Biden has kind of stepped back and kind of sleight of hand said, "Oh yeah, there's a mandate out, a government mandate." No, there's no mandate. He's recommending, and he wants businesses to do his dirty work. But there's no mandate out there. It's now companies are just coming up and saying, "No, you got to get the jab." And again, I want to talk regarding these airlines. A federal judge this past Tuesday ordered United Airlines not to place workers seeking an exemption to the company's COVID-19 mandate on unpaid leave. The temporary ruling was issued by U.S. Judge Mark Pittman. So workers who file for an exemption aren't unduly harmed before that hearing or that filing could be orally heard and argued in court. So he's put the brakes on here of these pilots losing their job. I also mentioned in New York, another federal judge, David Hurd, as I had mentioned in Utica, he also has put the brakes on in New York regarding Kathy Hochul and her mandate to get the jab. So we're seeing some pushback. Not just that there's two instances of two judges, but we're seeing that play out in other parts of the country. And it's good to see, and we need what happened to Southwest, I think, is only going to be the beginning. And if these other airlines want to go down this Biden, recommending companies mandate, then I think that they're going to see this escalate. Not only to the airlines, but to bus travel, train travel, and that's what needs to happen is people to say, no, we're not going to be forced to take this experimental drug. So we're in the middle of this. As I said, the government wanted to kind of ease it in and recommend and stroke the people. We'll give you something if you get the jab. Now it's you better get the jab or you're going to lose your job. And that's the attitude that we're seeing out of government. One concerning issue that I'd like to talk about right now, and I have mentioned this before, and I'd like to go back. Probably we've seen this being played out more and more, or we saw this played out earlier, 3-4 years ago now, where we saw states that were the media and these liberal politicians were coming out against states that were saying, no, we don't want these transgender bathroom people to be able to go in, men to go into girls' bathrooms, because there's a potential danger in that situation. and we were there was pushing back against just people wanting to feel comfortable and safe when women go into the bathroom. They don't have to feel that there's a threat there, and privacy, that a woman goes into a bathroom, she's not going to have a guy go in there with her and to be able to see and potentially hurt that woman. Well, this transgender issue is rolling steam. And now we're seeing, and society could have put a stop to this and said absolutely not. And whoever brought up this thought of boys going into girls' bathrooms and locker rooms should be ousted if they're in a position of in a position, political position, legislature, school board, whatever. They needed to be ousted. Absolutely not. But that didn't happen. Society's outcry has been kind of quiet. And when you see the slide, the moral slide that's been taking place, and there's no pushback, it just accelerates. And now, over the last 20 years, we've seen more and more of this moral decline. And now we're at a point where, hey, it's almost accepted. Transgenders, rights, they have to go into girls' bathrooms and locker rooms. And now what we're seeing, what I had been mentioning years ago, that what's going to happen. We already saw before in some of these states that don't have a transgender, accessibility to women's rooms, but we're seeing people, women go in and they look up and they see a crack in the wall and they go up and they look and there's a camera there. So we do have that crime taking place in bathrooms there, talking about privacy. But now I had been warning that you're opening up for people to be women to be put in danger. Well, fast forward to now, and I've been talking to you about earlier some months ago regarding transgender in school, and we've been hearing a lot over this past year, starting in the springtime, Loudoun County in Virginia. And now parents were outraged that these school board members and superintendent there were pushing transgender and bringing that into the school system in the spring. Not even 8 months from that, their edict and pushing this through, we have a crime and we have an assault. And how the media looked at that is the father of his daughter was reportedly, and I guess when it's in a court of law allegedly went into the bathroom and was joined by a skirt-wearing transgender and boy, and she was sexually assaulted. And what did you hear? Nothing from the national media, nothing from the school board, essentially. And it took outrage, and it took parents going and demanding answers and demanding that the changes be made. And you had the father go. This was in May. Went to a school board meeting, and a lot was taking place. But what has been reported is that while there, he had these activists that basically had come out and said, your daughter's not telling the truth. Now, folks, you have a daughter. You love your daughter. And you find out what took place here in that school board. And you don't think that this father would have been upset. And I believe that, restraint his restraint was admirable. And but what they tried to do is they tried to demonize him. He obviously was upset and heated. The police showed up, saw that he was angry. No physical blows or anything, but very heated and angry at what has the accusations that had come against his daughter. Now, I ask you, have you heard the Me Too movement and these so-called liberal politicians talking about, well, you have to believe the victim. Now you have these activists for transgender that, no, she's not telling the truth. But the police show up there and a crime allegedly has been brought against his daughter. And when I say allegedly, there was a rape kit and other evidence that had been collected. So the activist can make a claim and a proclamation. Oh, she's not telling the truth, but it appears that kit tells a different story. Talk about outrage, but who ends up going to jail? Who ends up in handcuffs and led away? The father, he had a lot of, I believe there was definitely self-control there. His last name is Smith, and what has taken place here, I believe it was Scott Smith, he has been speaking out. He's been going to the school board meetings and wanted to be heard. Regarding his daughter and demand some changes. But mainstream media, they didn't want to hear that. Nothing to see here. What took place? No, but what happened is it made national news that the School Board Association National went to the Attorney General to say, hey, we've got to stop this domestic terrorist that's taking place. Yes, we've got to stop this domestic terrorist that's been going on here, and they used Loudoun County and that school board as an example. And now you have the Attorney General Merrick Garland to try and come up with something or do something to enforce things in the school board. Now, a school board. Parents gather and they want a voice, they want to be heard. Now you've got, and that's not what the liberals, and that's not what we're seeing taking place at school boards. What we're seeing is we have a narrative, and you need to follow. We need to be in agreement. And it just reminds me of what we've seen play over the years. And we kind of laughed at it. You go to the college campuses and, we have to have a safe zone where conversations and about political or whatever the differing opinions regarding something, if it doesn't all agree and if everyone doesn't come to an agreement, then that constitutes an unsafe place. And that's where we have slid to now, is that parents can't come and bring their grievances and say, we don't want these books that are pornographic in nature and bringing information that to our kids that's detrimental and is damaging to them. And we want books, pornographic books, and that are infecting our children. some of the teachings in those books. We want those taken out of the school. And parents come and they bring those concerns, but now under this safe space, so to speak, now instead of parents gathering and agreeing mostly with one another, there are other parents that come with different thoughts, but you get the consensus of the group and their major concerns. But many of these school boards, they have a different way of doing things now. You bring one person in, the room is cleared, and you speak. They put a timer on you, 8 minutes, okay, done, next. Well, 8 minutes, okay, done, next. And this is how they want to run their school board meetings. And parents need to stand up and say, wait a minute, we are paying the taxes, and you work for us, not the other way around, and we want to gather, and we want to have a meeting where people's voices are heard, and everybody can hear these other parents and their concerns. Not this, oh yeah, come in, close meeting, okay, let's hear what you got to say, now go. No. That needs to stop right now. Parents should not accept that. We're seeing a battle, and as I've mentioned to you before, that we need to locally, we need to get involved. Even if you don't have kids in school now, if you've got grandkids, or you're a taxpayer, you need to get to these school boards and listen to what's going on. Hear what's going on. Hear what some of those in your neighborhood and your community are saying, and what might be a concern, so that you're aware and you can join and encourage and support some of these parents that are concerned. Because what we're finding out now is there's a lot that people were unaware of. There's been a lot of books in some of these school libraries that should have been pulled out years ago, that are teaching our kids dangerous activities. And we need to get involved. Local government is where it starts, because that's where the degradation has started slipping. Right in our grade schools, and we've seen this through college now for the last 20 years. And now what do we see in colleges? Safe spaces. You can't say this, or you're going to offend somebody, and any speech is shut down now if it doesn't line up with the political line. And typically, if it doesn't line up with the left, it needs to be shut down, censored, or outright, you have to shut up. We don't want to hear that that pushback or that commentary. So, free speech, when it comes to many of the school boards and parents coming together, that is being put down. So parents need to rise up. We are seeing some parents that have said, not only rise up, but I'm getting involved and I'm going to run for a school board seat and oust some of these crazy leftists and communists that have infiltrated many of the school boards. And again, what we're seeing here is evil. I mean, what society has been allowing to happen, instead of saying no, we're not going down this perversion road, and we're not putting our mothers and daughters and boys in danger also. So we need, when you talk about protecting our kids, parents need to organize and get go to these school board meetings, get more involved in what's being talked about in community government, and to be there to hold our so-called representatives accountable. I'd like to talk about, again, we've talked a lot about what's been going on in the schools, but we can't forget about Biden. And if we take a look at the Biden economy, it's bleak. It's in a position where, I mean, we're slowly sliding into third world territory, and in many areas. When it comes to our military, weakened under Biden. When it comes to our economy, inflation warnings already. And we're seeing that and when we go to the grocery store, we're seeing that at the gas pump. Now they're talking about natural gas is going up 30% in some, I believe, I've heard in New York. We were, just a year ago, we were energy independent. Guess what now? Now, Biden goes hat in hand to Europe to say, well, hey, no, excuse me, not Europe, to the Saudis, Middle East, oh, can you up your production, your oil production? Now we're going right back to where we were before, dependent on foreign oil. A year ago, we were energy independent under President Trump. Now we've slid right back dependent on other countries for our energy needs. Failure. And Americans need to demand a change, and it starts in our local school board. It starts the 2022 election. It starts even in coming local elections that's going to be taking place here shortly. We need to make a change, and it needs to happen now. Next year, we could be in even dire straits. But right now, get ready, folks. Your energy costs over the winter are going to rise sky high because of the failure in the White House. Very concerning. Now you've got crazy talk. I laughed, 9 years ago, 10 years ago now, where they were trying to push Obama's health care, Obamacare, and Pelosi had the nerve to get up and say, yes, come on now, let's gather together. We have to pass this Obamacare bill to find out what's in it. Foolish statement. Now we have a new talking point because there's been so much pushback in this Biden's 3.5 trillion tax and spend binge. Now we're hearing it actually costs zero. They said that. Comes out of Biden's mouth, comes out of Psaki's mouth. Oh, it's the actual cost is it's zero. So now what took place is because you've had many senators now pushing back against this Biden's 3.5 trillion. They did a stopgap measure. And here we go again, kicking the can down the road, going every 6 months. To pass a budget, to get them through a few more months. So that's what's happening right now. But they have, again, as I said, they've kicked the can down the road. This is the Biden economy and this administration, where they're taking America. And we should be concerned. It's not as if we're not seeing evidence of failure from the White House. When you take a look around at every aspect of our society, in our as I said, in our economy, our military, our school system, and that the much needed energy to continue to heat our homes, our food, all concerning and all going in the wrong direction. So we need, as I said before, we need to hold those those politicians, those local school board, our local politicians, and those that are in leadership positions in the local towns and counties. All of them need to be accountable. I want to step back one more time here and talk a bit about, there was a statement this past week, the Daily Signal reported. Loudoun County's public school defended itself on the accusation that it improperly handled two sexual assaults in its school buildings. However, the statement never talked about their compassion for the crime that the families were subjected to, and the crime that took place there. No apologies there. The suspect in this case is a trans fluid individual, and basically Monday a girl, Tuesday I'm a boy, Wednesday I'm a girl. I'll wear a dress on Monday, Tuesday I'll wear pants, and trans fluid. So this Loudoun County has been in the news now for 8+ months, and now what are we seeing? We're seeing crimes against kids taking place, and they're silent. The police arrested Smith during a Loudoun County, and I talked about this earlier, but I just want to go over when and what happened. It happened on June 22nd, where he and others voiced disapproval for the school system's new policy of transgender students. He eventually was sentenced to 10 days in jail. All of it was suspended for disorderly conduct and resisting arrest. So we see now that you go to defend your child and you end up in jail. And the reports are that they moved this trans fluid individual to another system, and allegedly there has been another assault in that school that was that this transgender was moved to. So there we have it. But does that make national news? Is there an outcry in the nation that this can happen? We warned, and these parents in Loudoun County warned that they did not want to have their kids in that position, and they were. This school board pushed this through, and now we see tragic results that took place. I'd like to at this point stop. I've got some videos that will kind of detail what took place in Virginia, in this county, Loudoun County. And I'd like us to take a look at some of the comments from teachers, from parents, and some national voices talking about what happened here in Loudoun County, and the outrage that we hear from and concern from the parents there in Loudoun County, there in Virginia. So here, let's take a look.